Hi, I'm Kat and I own quite a few signed books, and I did a poll on my Instagram asking if anyone would be interested in seeing them because I never get to look at them, and the vote was a unanimous 100%, so here are my signed books. I've pulled all of my signed books off of my shelves. As you can see, there's some gaps now. And yeah, I'm just going to show you what I have, and if there's a story attached to it, I'll tell you that too. Okay, so let's start with the authors that every book I own from them is signed. And that is J, Amy and Megan. I'm pretty sure every bookish Australian has a J, Amy and Megan shelf just because there's so many books by them. And I don't even own all of them, but here we go. First up, we have the Illuminae files. I first met Jay and Amy at their Gemini launch in Adelaide years ago, but now I live in Melbourne and they also live in Melbourne, so I see them all the time. Like, I literally saw them like 3 days ago. So here we have Illuminae and it says "For Cat, Fight Like a Girl," and it's signed by Amy and Jay. And then Gemini, which says "Take Your Shot." And then we have Obsidio, which I actually went to the Melbourne launch of it, and it was at the State Library and there were so many people there. And we weren't even allowed to hang around after we got our book signed. We were all given like a number and like you'd be in a group. I was in like group 2 or 3 or something. So it'd be like group 2, come up, and then we'd line up, they'd just sign and then we'd leave. So this one says "We Remember." And then we have Aurora Rising, and I went to the only launch event that they had for this one because they live in Melbourne and Amy was very heavily pregnant that she could have given birth at the event. I ended up being like right at the front of the line because I was with my friend Brie. And this one just says "For Cat" and then it is signed. And then we have the Starbound trilogy by Amy and Megan. Megan came to Adelaide once and she hasn't come back again, so I made sure I got all of these signed there. These Broken Stars says "Brace for Impact" and it is signed by both of them. This Shattered World says "Clear Skies." And their Fractured Lights says "Have Faith, Make Your Leap." And then we have the Unearthed duology, which I think was the event that Megan came down for, but I haven't actually read these books yet. I will get around to it. Okay, so Unearthed says "For Cat, Onward If You Dare," and Undying just says "For Cat" and it's signed by only Amy because this one came out after Megan was here, so she's got to come back so I can get her to sign this one too. And now just the J books. We have the Lifelike books, which number 3 has not even come out yet. Lifelike, I'm pretty sure I went to an event for it. There's usually always an event for one of these books. And yes, this is the final cover. It's not an arc. This is what the final cover looks like. This one says "For Cat, Think First, Die Last." And then I have an arc of DV8. So I got this one at YA Day and Jay had tweeted in the morning that he had some of these arcs and he was bringing them and to, you know, just come up and punch him in the arm for one. So we spent the entire morning being like, "Where's Jay?" He shows up at lunchtime. Kate and I see him first. We're like, "He's here." We sprint to the back of the room. I walk up to Jay Kristoff and I'm like, "I'm here to punch you in the arm." But I did not punch him because he's a very tall man. But now I get to say that I've threatened to punch Jay Kristoff to his face, so that's a story. And because Kate and I were the first ones to approach him, this one is actually the first ever arc of DV8 signed. It says "First Arc Ever Signed." I don't know if you can read that from there. This is on manual focus, so I'm not bringing it in closer, unless maybe you can read it. "First Arc Ever Signed." It says "For Cat, Hope Is All You Have." And the last Jay Kristoff things we have are the Nevernight Chronicle. I genuinely can't remember where I got Nevernight signed. It was at one of his events. This one says "For Cat, Never Forget." And then in this one, I also have a signed bookmark in there because I was part of the Nevernight traveling book that Kaz from Little Book Owl is doing. I don't think she's got it back yet. So yeah, Jay had actually annotated the book as well. So each of us got to take one of these bookmarks. And then we have God's Grave, which I actually did buy at the God's Grave launch. And I didn't live in Melbourne yet. This was the year of the first ever VidCon. And the launch was just happened to be the day before VidCon. So Grace and I went. And this one says "For Cat, Conquer the World." And then we have Dark Dawn, which just says "Blood Is All," and then is signed by Jay. I do not have this one personalized because he had pre-signed all of the books before the Dark Dawn launch, and then you could buy it and then get in line after he'd spoken to get it signed. But the line was so long, and if I had been in that line, I would have waited 2 hours. So instead I just went out to dinner with a whole bunch of other like booktubers and bookish people. Pierre Ford was even there. And I was just like, yeah, you know what? I'll get him to personalize it the next time I see him, which was actually last Thursday, but I didn't stay around for the signing because I just really wanted to get home. It was after work. So I'll just see him at the next event. So the next 4 books I'm going to show you aren't signed by the author. They're signed by people who are in the TV show of this book series. It's the first 4 books in the Mortal Instruments series. I didn't get them signed with like who was on the cover, so Dom didn't sign this one, but I just signed them in the order that I met them. City of Bones, as you can see, is this very OG copy, is signed by Kat McNamara. So it says, Kat, lots of love, XX, Catherine McNamara, and then she put a little angelic rune there as well. I met her at Oz Comic Con, and I think it was Melbourne. Yeah, Melbourne. And then we have City of Ashes, which is signed by Dom Sherwood. Just says Kat, he signed it. There's a little kiss there. I met him at Oz Comic Con Sydney. I remember that because I flew there especially because he was going to be there. And then the next year he ended up coming to Melbourne. But it was cool because I was working inside the photo booths that year, so I got to stand in like when he was getting his photos done with all of the people meeting him. And Dom doesn't have much of a filter. He'll just say things and then have to take it back because he's like, I didn't mean it in that context. I used to have this question that I would ask every celebrity that I would meet. It was, would you rather have pineapples for hands or only pineapples for the rest of your life? And Dom was like, oh, that's easy, that's boring. Why don't you get a new question like the one about dip? Wait, no, should not say that, that's inappropriate. And things like that just came out of his mouth all weekend. And then we have City of Glass. And this one is signed by Matt Daddario, who I also met at Oz Comic Con Sydney. This one says, Kat, I'd eat the pineapples, and then he signed it. Because I also asked him the pineapple question, and now I'll always remember that he said he'd eat the pineapples. And then I have City of Fallen Angels. And this one is signed by Alberto Rosende. I don't know how to pronounce his last name properly, who I met at Oz Comic Con Melbourne the year he came with Dom. And let's carry on this Shadowhunters theme. I have these special editions of the Dark Artificers series. So sadly, Queen of Air and Darkness and Lord of Shadows only have the stamp of her signature in them, so they're not actually signed. She just signed and then they put it on a stamp and stamped the book. And the Lord of Shadow ones is actually a sticker that you put in the book because they forgot to put the stamp in the books before they sent them out, so they had to send these afterwards. But Lady Midnight is actually signed by Cassandra Clare. That is actually a pen used from her hand that signed that. I bought these 3 online, so I've never actually met Cassie Clare, but one day I will, and I'll probably get her to actually sign like maybe the 10th anniversary edition or something. Heading back to Supernova and another big author, I have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas came to Adelaide Supernova years ago, and I met her, and I had only read Throne of Glass at that time. I really want to meet her again so I can actually like talk to her about all of her books now that I've read them all. But yeah, when I met her, we actually ended up talking about Benedict Cumberbatch of all people. So this one says, "To Kat, so great to meet you, XO," and then she signed it. Sarah J. Maas did do another tour when one of her newer books, maybe Kingdom of Ash, came out, but you had to pay $40 to attend a talk, just the talk, and only like 50 people got to meet her, and I wasn't doing that. We're moving into the YouTuber books I have now. First up, we have Hannah Hart's My Drunk Kitchen. I met Hannah, Mamrie, and Grace when they did their tour, and this was back in Adelaide. When we got there, the staff was originally like, you can only get one book signed, just one, and we were like, but they each have a book, and you expect us to choose which one. So eventually, like before the signing started, they were like, okay, you can have one each. And we're like, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. But yeah, this one signed by Hannah Hart. Can confirm that Hannah Hart gives the best hugs. I can't wait to meet her again one day just so I can get another hug from her. And then there's You Deserve a Drink by Mamrie Hart. And yeah, also signed in here right next to her photo. And then we have Grace's Guide, which signed by Grace. She just writes Grace. Simple, to the point. And that was the first time I met Grace Helbig. I also got to meet Grace a second time while I was traveling in America. We were staying in New York, but somehow the New Jersey signing for Grace in Style was closer than the New York signing. So we went over to New Jersey for a few hours. And with these ones, they were all pre-signed, but then you got to just have like a meet and greet and take some photos with her afterwards. So once again, it just says Grace. And the last YouTuber book, I haven't actually met this person, but I have seen this person in real life multiple times, and that is An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I have seen Hank Green at all 3 VidCon Australias, never actually met him though. I bought this book while I was in Sydney for Oz Comic Con. I was with Grace. The book had just come out and I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get it just yet, I'm gonna wait. But then I opened some of the books and they were signed, and this one has a massive hanklerfish. Just so you know, like, not all of them have hanklerfishes, and the larger ones are even rarer. So I was like, well, I have to buy it because it's hanklerfished. And now we're going back to the Aussies, because I have met a lot of Aussie authors. Living in Melbourne, a lot of authors also live in Melbourne because it's just a very literary state capital. Like, you can literally just go for a walk and see an author. Like, that literally happens. Once Kate and I were walking to a book sale and Anna Snoekstra just walked past us the other way. So speaking of Anna Snoekstra, Mercy Point is signed. I went to the launch for this one. This one says, "For Cat, hope you enjoy." There's a smiley face. She signed it. They've even got the YA Room Book of the Month sticker in there. And then we have a very underrated book, which is The Things I Didn't Say by Kylie Fornasia. Kylie Fornasia was part of like the YA squad of 2016 that Felicity from Penguin Teen Australia, who now works at Penguin Teen America, had like put together and toured and stuff. I haven't actually met Kylie Fornasia. She did like an online release party, and then I bought this one. This one says, "Dearest Cat, I hope you fall in love with the story of Piper and West, Kylie." And yes, I did fall in love with this book. Everyone go read it. The thing I love even more about this book is every book sold during that like online release party comes with a little sticky note in here, and this one says, "You are strong," and it's related to like what's happening in this scene, and it's really sweet, and it was a nice surprise to come across when I was reading the book. And then we have Will Kostakis, who I have met many times. Will's just always around. Like, the guy is always touring. It's really hard not to meet him if you're Australian. So I got the sidekicks back in Adelaide when he did his tour there. I actually have a vlog about it as well. This one says, "Dear Kathleen," and then it's signed. Oh, actually, this one I got from the YA Chronicles box, and it was already signed. But then I also met him at the launch because I had also bought the book as well, because I didn't know this was going to be in the YA Chronicles box, and I got that one signed and then I gave it to a friend. And then I've also got Monuments, which is his latest release from this year. This one is just signed and it says 2019 because I just picked this one up from a bookstore. I haven't got him to physically like personalize it yet. And the last signed author from the YA squad I have is Siobhan Plaza, and I have Frankie. Has met Siobhan multiple times. She is lovely. This one I got signed back in Adelaide. So this one says, "Dear Kat, so nice to meet you in real life. Glad you liked Frankie." And then she signed it because I had already read it by the time I met her. But her other book, Tin Heart, I have not read yet, but I did go to the launch in Melbourne for this one. Also, this one says, "Dear Kat, thanks for coming. Hope you enjoy Tin Heart." Smiley face. Gotta read it. I know I will enjoy it because I love Siobhan's writing. Next up is What I Like About Me by Jenna Guillaume. I've been following Jenna online for a while, and then I finally got to meet her at the Melbourne Writers Festival. I actually got to meet her twice, once earlier in the day where I got this signed. And it says, "Dear Kat, I'm so glad you enjoyed Maisie's story," and then it's signed twice because I actually won this one already signed because it's an arc, and then she signed it again. And then I got to meet her again at the end of the day when she was hosting the Becky Albertelli talk. So that is foreshadowing. And next up is What the Woods Keep by Katja de Becerra, and I've met Katja a few times because she's also one of those authors that goes to other author events because she's local to Melbourne. And I got this one signed at like a horror themed book event. So this one says, "Dear Kat, Enter the Woods, Love Heart," and then she signed it. Katja is super sweet as well, and I read this one in October during Halloween and I loved it. And now we're on to the last Aussie book that I've read, and that is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schultz, who is also local to Melbourne. And I also see Astrid everywhere because she's another one of those authors that is everywhere. Also, this one just says, "Dear Kat," and it's signed and it's in gold pen. Now on to the Aussie books that I haven't read yet. So we have After the Lights Go Out by Lily Wilkinson. I actually went to the blogger brunch for this one and got to hear her speak about this book, and then also went to the launch. So I have actually started this one because there's a YA room bookmark in there, but I must have stopped for some reason. I probably tried to read it in between the blogger brunch and the launch, and it didn't happen. So I will get around to finishing it one day. And this one says, For Cat, Swim Against the Current, and it says 2018, so I'll remember which year it was as well. That's nice. And then we have Underdog, which is a collection of Aussie short stories by like underdog authors, and I think it's signed 6 times by like the 6 authors that I got to meet there, and let's find out who they are because they each signed their individual story. So we have it signed by Michael Earp, and it says To Cat, Unleash the Unicorn. And now we just sit here and flip until we find the next signed short story, which is by Sophie L. McDonald, which says To Cat, Hope You Enjoy, Sophie L. McDonald. For the launch of this book, they had like 6 authors at the Melbourne one and like 6 at the Sydney one or something. This one is KM Stammer Square, which says Dear Cat, Love, and then a heart, and then Love and her signature. Signed by Tobias Madden, who is also the editor of this book, and it says To Cat, I hope you love our stories, smiley face. And then signed by Jess Layton, who is like a local Aussie now author, but also like blogger. So it says Cat, thanks for coming, love heart X, and then she drew a little cat. And then the last one signed in here is by Cassie Dorian, which says thanks for coming. Cool. And next is The Surprising Power of a Good Dumpling by Wei Chim, which I met Wei at the YA Fan Fest, which they actually held in Melbourne instead of Sydney for once. Oh, my camera's dying. Oh, and apparently I left that in there too. So it says To Cat, thank you for coming, Wei Chim, hashtag YA Fan Fest, and embrace the power. And then we have Sabriel by Garth Nix. I got this one signed in Adelaide way back when. This one says To Cats, with best wishes, Garth Nix. Next is Still Life with Tornado by A.S. King. I saw her back in Adelaide. She did an event with Siobhan Plaza. Oh, this one says For Cat, Live the Still Life. And then she also like drew love hearts coming out of the tornado. And the last Aussie author is Crystal Sutherland with Our Chemical Hearts. This one is actually signed twice. So we have signed at the bottom when I bought it, but then I got to meet her at another event and she signed it in this blue pen. So originally she was going to have an event for the purpose of launching this book in Adelaide, and I was in the city, I was with Kate. We were doing some shopping before going to the event, and then the power goes out in Target. And we walk outside, the power is out everywhere in the city. We go online, the power is out in the entire state. That's right, the entire state of South Australia had no power. And there was a storm coming, and we were still planning on going to the event because we're like, we're already in the city. But then my dad calls me and he's like, no, you need to get home now. So we go home and I walk into the train station and everything's dark because none of the lights work. And apparently being on the line I was with the older trains was actually a benefit because the lines with the newer trains couldn't run because they were electric trains and there was no electricity. So I got to go on my old school train and go home. But yeah, they actually still went ahead with the event, and there was maybe like 3 people there. They did it with like torches and candles, which would have been cool to see, but you know, there was a storm coming. So later I got to meet Crystal at another event and I got to have her sign it to them. Okay, we're almost at the end of this portion of the video. Remember that foreshadowing with Jenna Guillaume? Well, I have Love, Simon by Becky Albertelli signed. I do have 3 of her books, but I only wanted to get 1 signed because the line was so long and I was just like, let's just have 1 signed so we can speed up this line for everyone else behind us. So it says For Cat, Love, Becky Albertelli, and then she drew a little Simon there as well. And I love Becky Albertelli. She is the sweetest and the most adorable. And I haven't actually read this, so I gotta get around to it, but I loved the movie. And then I have The Sword of Summer by Rick Riordan. Back when Dimmicks Adelaide on their kids' Twitter account had a competition to win a signed copy of this book, like it's actually signed by Rick Riordan. And I was the only person who entered. I was like, what? People don't want a signed Rick Riordan book? So yeah, I was the sole entrant of the competition and won the book. This is the only Rick Riordan I have signed. I've never met him, but one day I will and maybe get him to sign like Percy Jackson. And the last book in this segment is a really fun one because I constantly get it signed, and that is the Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Making of a Slayer book. I get this one signed by actors from the show every time they come down. Sadly, did not get them signed by Julie Benz and Amy Acker at Supernova Adelaide because I sadly did not have enough money to throw around to get that signed. But that's also the weekend I bought the conspiracy palette, so I chose the palette over the signatures. But anyway, we have quite a few in here and hopefully I'll get to meet them again. First up, we have Amber Benson. It says, "To Kathleen, much love." Loved meeting Amber Benson. I even asked her about the Morganville Vampires YouTube series because I really wanted more of that. She said she wanted to do it, but it never came around to doing it apparently. And then we have Claire Kramer, who played Glory, and it says, "Cat, be a god." Oh, that's really bad. Can you see that? Yeah. Loved meeting her because I saw Bring It On when I was like 8, so she's just kind of always been around. And then we have Emma Caulfield. It says, "To Kathleen, Emma Caulfield," and she did a little smiley face. Also met her at a convention. I met all of them at a convention. And then we have Sarah Hagen up here. It says, "To Kathleen." She played one of the potential slayers. Camera died, so let's see if I can get this done in the little bit of charging that I did. And then we have J. August Richards. It says, "To Kathleen." This is the only picture of him in the book because it's from Angel. And my favorite one of the book is from James Masters. It says, "To Cat, bite me," and then he signed it. This was the second time I got to meet him. The first time I got to meet him was in 2012 at Supernova. Also met him at Supernova later. Yeah, Supernova 2012 was my first ever convention, and I just got a photo with him, walked in, went completely blank, and he was like, "Are you okay?" But then I got to meet him again and I redeemed myself. And the year this was signed was also the first year I was a PA. This was back in Adelaide, and I was PA to Shelley Henning then, so I had definitely gotten much better around celebrities. Okay, and guess what? That's not all of the signed books I have. I'm going to switch over to Kat from the future now, who is back home in Adelaide, and can show you all of the signed books that I have there that I did not bring with me. So go future Kat. Thanks past Kat, this is future Kat, and I have this little pile left of signed books. Here we have Mercy by Rebecca Lim. This one has a bookplate that says, "To Kathleen with best wishes, always Rebecca Lim." That's from 2011. So that bookplate didn't come with the book. She posted back in 2011 like a competition to win a bookplate on her Facebook page. I didn't know what a bookplate was then, but I still entered. I won one, and now this book is signed. Then I have Holding Up the Universe by Jennifer Niven. This one says, "Kat, you are wanted, you are loved." I met Jennifer Niven at the same event I met Crystal Sutherland at. It was like a Penguin Teen Australia thing. Yeah, I've read this one, but I haven't read All the Bright Places. Here I have a YA FanFest 2016 proof from Alan and Unwin. I didn't attend FanFest in 2016 because I lived in Adelaide at the time. I've had 3 authors sign this one. Here we have Frog Kisser, signed by Garth Nix. Got it signed at the same time that Sabriel was signed. Then I have Unearthed by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, and it's just signed by Amy. And right at the back here, Lifelike by Jay Kristoff. This is the first ever Lifelike thing he signed. So, you know, first ever Lifelike thing signed and first ever Deviate arc signed are both mine. And lastly, we have the first ever author I met, and that is Rachel Kane. She signed Glass Houses. So it says, "To Kathleen, cheers and hugs, Rachel Kane." I met Rachel Kane at Supernova Adelaide 2012. She was at the Penguin Teen booth, and it was very exciting. It was my first ever convention, the first ever author I met, the first ever celebrities that I got proper pictures with. Yeah, it was great. This was the one that was the day after my school formal. I have only read the first 10 books in this series. Yeah, only the first 10 in this series. I don't think I'm gonna finish the last 5 because I barely remember anything, so I would have to reread 10 first. It's months later and I still haven't edited this video, so apparently I'm just adding books as I go now. So the next book I have to add on my signed books is A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This one was the YA Room Book Club Book of the Month, and Bloomsbury gave the YA Room some book plates to give us and put in our books. So another one down. Thanks future Kat, now we're back in November again. Battery did not last. Let's try this again. So there are all of my signed books. I am so privileged to be able to live in a state or city where there are so many authors and that they're like spending their time touring so we can meet them. I can't wait for the day when some of my friends are like going on their own tours as well, because then I'll get to be like, yeah, I knew her before she was famous. If you've met any of these authors, please comment down below with your stories, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more of my videos.